Ask, what do stunning coins and delicious snacks have in common?
Hi, I'm Jack McNamara, and I love stunning and rare coins. Oh, and I also love delicious and scrumptious food, too. Join me as I combine the best of numismatics and tasty treats into one show. Coin Snacks with Jack. Put down that tired bologna sandwich and spice up your lunch as I chat with some of the biggest names in numismatics and eat delicious snacks. From coin news and U.S. Mint releases to rare coins and numismatic oddities. From my all-time favorite coins to ancients and commemoratives, get your numismatic midweek pick-me-up with Coin Snacks with Jack. Plus, we'll eat snacks, lots of them.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Coin Snacks with Jack. I'm your host, Jack McNamara, and this is the only show on the internet where you can hear me crunch food directly into a microphone. Catch me right here live on YouTube and Facebook, streaming a new episode every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern and noon Pacific. Now, everyone, I'd like you to take a look at this coin right here. This is a really, really spectacular coin. This is an 1861 Dahlonega Mint. I gave away my secret. 1861 D gold dollar, and this is easily one of the most interesting coins ever to be struck in the United States. Now, many of you are seeing that D Mint mark at the bottom on the reverse there, and you're probably thinking that this coin had to be struck at the Denver Mint. Well, actually, that can't be the case, because as I said, this coin is from 1861. You can see the date clearly on the reverse there, right under where it says $1, 1861. And no coins were struck in the Denver Mint until 1906. So this coin is actually from the Dahlonega Mint in Georgia, which was a mint that was constructed due to one of our country's first gold rushes. Not many people realize there were other gold rushes, because that California gold rush was so big that we just kind of call it the gold rush. But there were other gold rushes in the southeast. And what makes this particular coin that I'm showing you, I wanted to just talk about this because it's such a spectacular coin, such a historical piece. But what makes this coin even more special and more historical, besides being from this mint that only lasted from the 1830s to 1860s, a mint that struck very few coins, a very limited amount of coins, coins that circulated, very few of these coins exist today, let alone in beautiful mint state condition like this coin. But this particular example, what makes this 1861 Denver Mint coin so historically important is that this issue was actually struck under the Confederate states during the Civil War. The Confederates took over the Dahlonega Mint in Georgia, and there's other issues that they're not sure if they were struck under the Union authority, federal government, or under the Confederacy. But this example, we know the gold dollars were not struck until a date after the mint was taken over by the Confederacy. So this is a very important historical extreme rarity, and I just want to show this to you, and you'll see why, because we're going to circle back and talk about this coin a little bit later. Before we get there, though, I just want to say thank you to everyone that gets my show on the air every week. Joey, Sofer, Colleen, Nate, Elliot, Alex, thank you all so much. This week, we have another lunch special for you. We are going to be, and the lunch special isn't for you that I just thanked. The lunch special is for our viewers, our clients, our fellow coin collectors, people who love coins like I do. We have another lunch special for you all this week. We are going to be giving 7% off of all our quarter eagles and half eagles. This is only going on until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So do not hesitate to check out our selection. And remember, no code necessary. So just go to the website, look at our $2.50 gold coins, our $5 gold coins, and check them out. No code necessary. Now, this is where I normally would introduce my guest. And you know, we had announced that this week was going to be, you know, my partner, the other half of the Coin Guys, you know, my buddy and, you know, partner here in numismatics. But unfortunately, we had some technical issues with Rick Tomaska's hookup, and we couldn't get a clear hookup. So we're going to have him on a future date once we fix those issues. I'm really excited to have Rick in the future. I'm, you know, a little sad that he couldn't be here because, like I said, he's the other half of the Coin Guys. He's my partner, and I love the guy. So I'm looking forward to having him on. Wish he could have been here today, but it just wasn't in the cards. But luckily for us, me and Sofer here.
Jack?
Yeah?
Sofer and I.
Oh, got it. Wait, you write this stuff? Luckily, Sofer and I are still here, and we really cooked up a good show for you. And we're going to talk about some of the most highly sought-after gold coins to be struck in U.S. history. I teased it a little with that 1861D gold dollar. These are coins that were struck at mints that most people have never heard of. And today we're going to be answering a lot of questions that we're often asked about these intriguing coins. We do get a lot of collectors asking about coins from these, you know, little-known mints that, you know, haven't been striking coins for, you know, over 150 years. They're intriguing coins and they're fascinating coins. So we're going to talk about these coins and about the mints that produce them. If you have any questions yourself, please put them in the chat. We're going to try and get to everybody's questions if you have questions about these mints that no longer exist. Now, before we get to that, we do have, this is the most important and most commonly asked question from our viewers. Colleen, what is our snack? What is it?
I would love to answer that question for you. So, Jack, it's your 15th episode.
Wow.
Did you realize that?
I didn't.
So you've been cooking up great shows, 15 episodes of them, having great guests and exciting coins. And today I know you're going to talk about gold coins when we love gold. Everybody loves gold. I have my 100-year-old gold earrings on today. So then for the snack, I had to go with the most beloved cookie in the United States. And that, of course, is the chocolate chip cookie. So I baked a batch of chocolate chip cookies for you.
I love chocolate chip cookies.
Yes, and back in 1938, Ruth Graves Wakefield and Sue Graves, they invented the chocolate chip cookie.
Oh.
And Ruth owned the Toll House Inn in Massachusetts, and it was known for home cooking. And she wanted to create this new dessert for her guests. So she created the chocolate chip cookie. And then in World War II, when all these care packages were sent to the Massachusetts soldiers, they started sharing their cookies with other American soldiers, and that just helped spread the recipe. And then these soldiers were now requesting care packages of chocolate chip cookies. So that just spread its popularity all across the United States. Here we are, 1921. No, we're already in 2021.
2021, yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands of different recipes that have been created for the Toll House chocolate chip cookie. So I prefer a chewy cookie. So that's what we have for you today. And then I've also just added an extra little level, and I've added some butterscotch chips.
Oh.
So I'm going to give you just two because, you know, we want to, you know.
I was hoping, I was looking at the plate and I was counting 15 episodes and I saw close to about the 15 cookies. I was hoping I got 15 cookies out of this. No?
No, you don't.
No? All right.
So you have to share with everyone else. So, all right, well, we're excited for your conversation today, and I hope you enjoy the cookies.
It's great. And you said that they were invented in 1938?
1938.
Well, that's the centennial of the opening of the first striking of some of the coins we're going to talk about today. Some of these were first struck in 1838.
Yeah. That's terrific. Okay, great.
Awesome. Oh, they look delicious. Those are awesome. Thank you so much.
And since I'm kind of the guest on this show, I'm guessing that
No.
I get...
No.
No. Oh.
You know, I'll put an extra on there.
Yeah, that
in
was
case you wanna
Sofer's.
share.
The one Sofer thought, but it's mine. I'm not that mean, Sofer. I'll let you lick the plate when it crumbs
Thanks.
off my plate.
I'll just sit on the ground and eat the crumbs if you drop any. Jack, interesting. We have probably the best question to start off the show right now.
Okay.
Which is, wait, wasn't the California Gold Rush the first gold rush?
You know, it's kind of the gold rush, right? I mean, the California Gold Rush, when we talk about the gold rush, it's like the gold rush. But that's because there was so much gold found in California. That was 1848 gold's discovered in California. It was one of the biggest economic growths in American history. Because there was so much gold found there, we actually started making bigger coins. The double eagle, which so many people collect today. That big $20, 1 ounce of gold coin was spawned because of all of this gold found in California. But there were earlier gold rushes that are, not as well known because they've kind of become so, in the shadows after this huge discovery of gold in California. So there were discoveries in the early 1800s, I think even late 1700s, if I'm correct here, but certainly early 1800s across America in the South. The Southeast, prompted the first gold rushes. Prospectors rushed mainly to two areas, hoping to get rich, and those areas were Charlotte, North Carolina, and Dahlonega, Georgia. Now, I understand there was gold found kind of in the surrounding area, South Carolina, and some of the other states down in that area, but primarily, Charlotte and Dahlonega were kind of the hot spots. Now,
at that time, like what, the early 1800s, how are they getting that gold to like Philadelphia?
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to get gold to Philadelphia. I mean, you think there's, what was the modes of transportation then? Mainly horse, and wagon. I don't think there was any trains yet going from this,
Right.
from the south to the north. You could go up the Mississippi, but then you're so far inland. You could take the go by ocean, on boats, but it was not any direct, easy route really from Charlotte or Dahlonega to the north. So it was hard, and like you said, you're talking about Philadelphia. I mean, that's where you would get coins made at that time. So it was not easy to, when people did find this gold down there, it wasn't too easy to turn it into something useful, to turn it into coin, and turn it into money.
They're just finding chunks of gold.
Yeah, so
I
it was.
I heard that there was the gold in Georgia was there for so long the mountains had eroded and it was just like hanging out in the side of a mountain. People could just see it. They weren't like sifting for it or anything. They weren't panning for it even.
That's amazing. I love hearing I learn a new, something new about coins and the history of this stuff every day, and that's why I love coins. That's so amazing to hear things like that. But yeah, it was hard to get these coins up, or to get gold up north to the Philadelphia Mint. You're going by boat on the ocean. Obviously there's hurricanes. There's a lot of, things that can happen there. But because of this, and there were some private issues, there were some people who began striking private coins in these areas. But more importantly, and the coins we're going to talk about today, were because of these gold rushes in the South, because of these finds of gold. In 1835, Congress passed a Mint Act to establish mints in Charlotte and in Dahlonega, as well as the mint in New Orleans, which we talk about a bit more often. Okay, and this one is, I'm trying to remember, is that Charlotte or Dahlonega we're looking at here? That's Dahlonega. So that's Dahlonega, Georgia, and you see those, it looks like troops standing out in front of it there. So this is a image I'd imagine probably in the 1860s. Looks like some very early photography there. So back in the day, our Dahlonega Mint that we're talking about, like I said, Congress passed this act in 1835 establishing mints. We call these branch mints, and what that means is basically any mint that's not Philadelphia. Philadelphia is, the headquarters. That's where the mint was established. Any of these other mints, even today, Denver, West Point, San Francisco, are what we call branch mints. So these were two early branch mints. that were authorized in 1835. Took a little bit longer to start actually making coins because you got to build the buildings and hire the crew and all this. But these are mints that we get a lot of questions about because so many people don't even know that they exist because they stopped making coins in these mints in 1861. And you don't see them. There were no hoards. Some of these other coins, Carson City, there were these hoards in the government vaults that give us so many of these mint state coins today. Charlotte and Dahlonega, there was no hoards. During that time, the Civil War, any coins that got made got spent pretty quickly. So there's so few that survive, period, let alone in mint state. So there's a lot of questions that people have about these mints, and we're here today to answer them. So let's talk about these mints. I guess first we'll start talking about the Dahlonega Mint, maybe?
Yeah, what's interesting is, people are probably wondering, like, okay, the Southern mints, New Orleans is probably part of that. Why are we not talking about the New Orleans mint?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because it is part of it. As we said, that Mint Act in 1835 did authorize New Orleans as well. But the reason that we're not talking about New Orleans today is because collectors of these coins generally kind of lump Dahlonega and Charlotte together. And that's because these two mints really had the same kind of parallel story. They both only struck small gold. So they struck gold dollars, $2.50 quarter eagles, and $5 half eagles. They only struck gold. They did not strike any silver coins. They were more kind of regional. New Orleans had a little bit different path. It was a bigger, bigger mint. It lasted a lot longer. It struck a lot of silver coins. I think the New Orleans Mint is more well known for its Morgan dollars. It struck a lot of Morgan dollars there.
Right, that's its legacy, right? That's what collectors know that mint for right now.
Right. Now, New Orleans, we can do a show of its own because, New Orleans actually did strike bigger gold. So they struck $10, $20 gold coins. New Orleans $20 gold is legendary. Some of the rarest coins in numismatics. There's some coins that don't even exist in mint state. There were very few of these $20 gold pieces made. They're some of the most fabled coins in numismatics. But that's a story for a different day. There's some, 6-figure, 7-figure coins struck at the New Orleans Mint. But these coins from Dahlonega and Charlotte are especially interesting to me and to a lot of collectors because it was such a short period of time. They only struck gold, and they struck so few, and because of that history, this gold rush that people don't even know about, they're so rare. They're so rare, and it's interesting that you have these mint marks that people see, and it's confusing for people. You see this D mint mark, and you assume it's the Denver Mint if you're newer to collecting.
When I first started working here, I found out that there was a Dahlonega Mint. I was like, research. I got to figure out what this is. What's going on? I just know about the Denver Mint from the 1900s.
Right. And you see that D Mint mark, and then eventually you go, wait a minute. I thought Denver opened in 1906. This coin's from 1838 or 1854. How does it have a D Mint mark? And then you see there's this other mint, and then nobody can say it right. Dahlonega. At first, everybody butchers that. It's a kind of a tongue twister of a word.
Yeah, it looks like it looks like you're reading it like a Dahlonega, like it's baloney or something. You know what I mean? Confused.
Well, I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that for our southern friends who may take offense, but it is a difficult word to learn to pronounce, especially if you're only reading it and you're not hearing someone say that word.
Absolutely.
You see it and it's like Dahlonega, like how do you say that? But it's a fascinating story. I love these coins. They're very rare. So 3 years after that Mint Act of 1835, Dahlonega opens its doors. They start striking 80 gold half eagles on April 17th, 1838. So that's the beginning of the coinage of the Dahlonega Mint. And the cool thing is, because the mint was established at this booming time in the Industrial Revolution, they had state-of-the-art equipment. They had the brand new laser computer, well, maybe not quite, but they had steam-powered equipment, which was really new. The first steam-powered coins were struck by the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia only 2 years prior, in 1836. So they were like right at the front of this kind of revolution in technology and efficiency and the ability to strike coins in a much more efficient way of doing things, you know?
Yeah, prior to that, people were doing like what, a screw press?
It's a
Two
screw press.
guys just
Literally guys turning it looked like, if you see old images of like the old printing presses or a press where they do for wine, like grapes, it's literally like two pieces that come together like this with a big screw and a bar on top that you'd use to twist it. And a smaller one might have been turned by one person. You might have had a bigger one where two guys. I've seen some drawings and images of ones where they actually had a system of gears where they'd have horses outside of the building walking in a circle and it'd turn the gear to move the press, but it was a screw press. But starting in the 1830s, they have this new technology where they can run these things on steam and really get these things going in a more efficient way and a more kind of standardized way where the striking pressure is more consistent.
The screw press kind of sounds like a blessing to me because, like, you get to go to work and exercise at the same time.
Right, yeah.
Like, I got to drive here and drive back home.
Oh, yeah, those early Mint employees were pretty buff, but
yeah, they had to be.
You got to watch your fingers, when you're pulling those coins in and out of those presses, though. But yeah.
Listen to this. We got Sebastian in chat. He wanted to know how the Confederates, you said they started striking coins. Like, how did that happen? What's going on at that time?
Right. That's a great question. And, this is a part of our history that was, maybe not the highest point in our history here, but a point that has a lot of interest and a lot of collectors. We see it with military items, the Confederacy, this period. So many people collect coins from this era, military items. But what happened was, the Confederacy, as they're taking over the South, they're seizing these buildings. And the Dahlonega Mint was seized by the Confederacy during the Civil War on January 19th of 1861. And they were striking coins at this mint until June 1st of 1861 when they ran out of gold. So, under the Confederate rule, under the authority of the Confederacy, only about 1,600 half eagles were struck. Now, the 16D dollar is really fascinating. That's the coin I showed you guys in the beginning that I wanted to talk about because it's such a fascinating coin. The 16D gold dollar is the only coin that we know was struck only by the Confederacy.
So every single example.
Correct. They didn't start striking gold dollars until after the date when the Confederacy took over the mint. So we know that all these coins were struck by the Confederacy. This coin's included as one of the book, one of the greatest 100 U.S. coins. This is in that book. And these coins, you look at it and it says United States of America. It doesn't say Confederacy.
Right.
Now, the Confederates did strike a few coins with a Confederate design on them, but they didn't have the means to stop what they're doing and redesign coins and stuff. They just needed money. So they just used the dies that were there, and they still struck coins that were U.S., gold dollars like this, or $2.50, $5 coins, using the dies that were there, and just, instead of shipping the coins to banks in the North, of course they're not going to do that. They just used them for money.
They weren't trying to pull a Theodore Roosevelt. Like, they weren't trying to introduce a new age of American beauty to coinage.
They were trying to get money as fast as they could to fund the Confederacy and what they were doing. So they just struck coins.
I was reading up on that coin, actually. Apparently all of them are horribly weakly struck. Mm-hmm. And it looked to me when we had that up, like, if you see, is that just like some really intense doubling going on there? Like, look at that A underneath the truncation of liberty, like.
Where am I trying to look here?
The end of America underneath her hair. Is that not doubled?
Oh, yeah,
or is it just so
no,
weak?
that does look doubled. It's super weak, though, because, this is one of the highest graded coins. I think this is an MS-64. I think this is the finest known example, if not one of them. And if you look at, like, around the edge, that what we call the denticles, those little kind of, they're called denticles. It's like the teeth that go around the edge of the coin, that little design border. You can see more than half of them don't exist.
Right.
And that's not wear. This is a very high grade coin. That's just how the coin was made. And I would have to guess, we could research and see if there's any better data on this, but it would make sense to me that when the Confederates took over the mint, they didn't have a lot of experience making coins. So they kind of were just rushing in, and whoever was around was manning the equipment, and trying to make these coins. So, the quality control was not their number one goal here. They were just trying to make some coins and have money.
Right. Jack, you're going to be excited about this.
Okay.
We've got Bobby Legs in chat.
Bobby Legs. Oh, my buddy. Oh, I love that guy. He's one of my best friends in the world. How are you doing, Bobby Legs? What's he got?
Bobby Legs asked a question about early Confederate coin examples. I don't know anything about it, but he asked if the designs were based on Gaitanus Nacarellus.
I don't believe they were based on Gaitanus Nacarellus. They were generally using our federal coin designs, as you see here. Even the few examples that were made that the Confederates did redesign and strike, there were patterns. There were 4 $half that were struck. I'm pretty sure they were struck at New Orleans, and they basically just took coins, the obverse from a regular issue federal U.S. coin, and then on the reverse they made like a Confederate shield logo. They only made 4 of those. 2 of them are museums. They're extremely rare. But these are coins that we're talking that were struck, not with any emblems or design of the Confederacy here.
Right.
These coins that were struck in gold at Dahlonega here, and later we're going to talk about another Southern Mint. Same story. They just were using the dies that were at hand. They were federal designs, and they were just making coins. Because you got to remember, at this time, it's different today where our coins don't have any intrinsic metal value. At this time period, we were using coins from all different countries of the world. So as long as a coin had a dollar worth of gold in it, it weighed about approximately a 20th of an ounce. That was $1. It didn't matter if it was a U.S. design or a foreign design. A coin of about a half an ounce of gold, that was a $10 value that would be used, even if it said, a denomination in British sovereigns or real, escudos or any foreign denomination. So they're just pumping out coins, and just the mechanics that they had there, the machinery, the dies to strike those coins happened to be obviously U.S. coin designs. It was a U.S. mint until early in that year. So that's what the coins were struck as.
Money is money.
Money is money, and it's interesting that, like I said, some of these coins are very collectible because we know certain denominations were struck during this time period where they were both issued under, or struck under the authority of the Union, the federal government, and the Confederacy. But that 1861 D gold dollar is the only one we know that was exclusively struck under the authority of the Confederacy. So,
everything is speculation. This is the only one that that
this
is
only
that
one we know for
historic
sure.
coin.
Right, exactly. So, trying to see what else do we have here under the Confederacy. Sorry, I'm trying to find my notes here.
So, like, the war ended, and
right.
They stopped striking coins in 1861. They didn't have the means to do it. The war ended. The U.S. wins, of course. We're
Thank
happy.
God,
We're stoked
right?
about it. We're stoked, right?
right.
And then, the 70s come along and they're like, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do with this building? It's historic. It's a beautiful building.
Right.
What's going to happen? They wanted to use it as an assay office.
Right. But for whatever reason, it just never really worked out. I think part of it by that time was, when these were built, it was because there was all this gold here. All of a sudden, gold is found in California, and the gold in the South, first off, a lot of it had already been, discovered. It wasn't as plentiful as it once was, and even what was there seemed so minor by comparison to California. So it ended up, eventually failing, and in 1873, it became the North Georgia Agricultural College. But 5 years after that, things didn't quite go as well as they planned either, and the building actually burnt down. But the interesting fact, and these little tidbits I love finding out. Like I said, when I was in high school, I wasn't the hugest history buff, but as I got more and more into collecting coins, as an adult, I mean, I collected coins since I was a little kid, but as I got more deeply involved in it, I just fell in love with the history of these things, and I know so much more history than I ever did just by studying these coins. And I'm always finding new tidbits. And the one that I heard recently that I thought was so cool and fascinating was, when this mint building burnt down, in Dahlonega, they actually recovered gold from the wreckage of this building, and they actually made it into gold leaf that was used on the Georgia State Capitol building, on the dome of the state capitol, as you see here.
Oh, I think I see a piece from Dahlonega right now.
I mean, that gold was, at least some portion of it was gold that came from the Dahlonega Mint. So, they refer to today, when you're in that building, they refer to it as under the gold dome. So it's just, that to me is just so cool. Like, that's a story I didn't know until recently, and actually one of our clients passed that information on to us, and we researched it and found some things that back that up, and I was just thrilled to hear that. And I look at that today and I go, wow, look at, like, there's Dahlonega gold in that in that dome of that building. It's so great. So,
maybe not worth as much as a coin right now, but
that looks like a lot of gold up there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I bet if you peeled that all off and melted it down, it'd add up to quite a bit of gold.
Got a couple dollars.
So what else we got here?
So we got someone in chat asking, have you all sold any Dahlonega coins? And another question from Proof 70 guy, and he's asking, what are the kind of best grades that come from that Dahlonega Mint?
That's a good question. I'd have to double check, but you rarely see mint state, period. I know we've handled a bunch. I'm really excited when I see a nice AU coin, and we can start with that. Here's one that we did sell recently. This is a 1839 coin. This is an AU 53 grade. As you see here, NGC AU 53, so about uncirculated, which is a pretty solid grade for Dahlonega. You see a lot of things in very fine grade, or extremely fine is a pretty solid grade too. AU, you're really getting up there. Mint state is so unusual. Like, for example, for this coin, the highest grade, the finest known, is a mint state 64 coin. There's only 31 in AU 53, only 94 finer than AU 53. I'm sure a large percentage of those are still not mint state coins, AU 55, AU 58. Once in a while we get coins in mint state 61, 62. So few of these coins exist in mint state. So a coin like this, here's a great example. This 1839D that we're looking at right here, which is called the classic head design, that type of coin. If we go back to the Uverse there, that style of Liberty head we call the classic head. And this 1839D was actually the first quarter eagle, the first year that they struck a quarter eagle at Dahlonega. And again, to give you an idea of the mintages, we're saying these are low mintages. Today a low mintage is 100,000 coins, 200,000 coins. We're looking at silver eagles, gold eagles, things like this.
Yeah, think of the American silver eagles and the American gold eagle had that 2000 mintage, and that was
crazy. But
unbelievable.
But like when we look at silver eagles, a mintage of 100,000, people go crazy. Like that's like a super low mintage. Most of them are in the millions. This example here, they struck 13,674 coins, and that's pretty standard what you see for Dahlonega issue coins. They're mintages in like the 10, less than 20,000. So this is an example, less than 14,000 struck. The highest grade is an MS64, which in today, again, new coins, today we get coins in 69, 70. Even in the later part of the 19th century, $2.50 coins and $5 coins, 64 would be considered a very strong grade, a high grade, but usually these later dates, you'd see some examples surviving in like 67 grade, maybe 66 grade. When you have the finest known is 64 grade, and there's only, I don't know how many are in 64, but I'm guessing it's not more than, I was going to say, it's probably one, it's probably not more than 5. That shows how few of these were saved, like, for any of them to survive in mint state when there's no hoards. Morgan dollars, there's mint state coins because they were in these bags that were in treasury vaults. Right. Type 1 double eagles, the only reason we have mint state coins because of this shipwreck. They went on the SS Central America and the ship sunk. There's a hoard. Later dates, the late 19th century, early 20th century, we talk about the European bank hoard. These coins were struck, they were in banks, and then they got shipped overseas, and But these coins, there were no major hoards.
And what people need to realize about these like quarter eagles, like people were striking these to actually use. $2.50 was like a transaction for a person back then, so they would use them. They would get them and use them. Like for these double eagles, for these Morgans, like they struck millions upon millions of Morgans, and there were a lot sitting in banks, like you said. But like these 13,000 of them were minted, and people were using them. They weren't $20. $20 would be something a bank would use, but $2.50 a person.
I mean, $2.50 was a solid amount of money. I don't know what that was, but you're right. It's a denomination it was probably big at the time, but small enough that a individual would be using it. You know, that might be, I don't know. I'd have to research it, but a day's wage or you know, something where you'd be using that money.
That's why they're all worn down.
Exactly.
And that's why the survivability is so low. Like, look here, AU-53, we have a population of 31, and the finer known examples only 94. Like, there's not that many below either. Most of these coins only have a survivability of like a couple hundred coins known. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
So out of that 14,000, 200 exist. Most of them are below AU. Like, these were used.
Right, and you look at these things over and over, and you see this trend. It's not like that is a exceptional date for the Dahlonega Mint. That's the norm. You know, this is what we're seeing. You know, here, let's look at another one that we've sold recently. We have an 1856, D for Dahlonega. This is a $5 gold coin. Now, this is a really, for Dahlonega Mint, this is a high-grade coin. Mint State 62. Just a beautiful coin. Again, a mintage less than 20,000 coins. Look at that. For a 62, that is a really nice MS62 coin. You know, you look at a lot of MS62 grade coins, and that means there's no wear. Anything 60 or higher, there's no wear. But in 62, you often see a lot of kind of heavy bag marks and scrapes and things. But this coin, it's just kind of some little wispy marks and things. If that coin was in a 63 holder, I wouldn't be offended by that.
It's almost like this coin was just struck at the mint and caught on a velvet pillow.
Well, it would probably grade higher than 62 if it was caught on a velvet pillow. I see what you're doing there. It is a pretty nice coin though. But look, a mintage of less than 20,000 again, 19,786 for this issue. You see that big Denver. Big. I'm used to it too. Big D for Dahlonega at the bottom there, right above the denomination. They moved it to the reverse. You saw in that 1839 2.5, they had the D on the obverse above the date for just the very beginning of the series. That coin we showed his first year. They later moved it to the reverse. We see here. In this grade MS62, there's only 14 graded. There's only 13 finer. The finest known is an MS65. And again, that's a wonder coin. Like we said, for some of these coins, there are no gem coins. MS65 is what we call a gem. And for these coins, there's so few in any level of mint state. Right. For a lot of these dates, there are no gem coins. 62 like this is, this is one of the finest examples you're going to find for this 1856 D5. This is just a stellar coin.
Alex wants to know how much a big boy coin like this could sell for, something like a Dahlonega and uncirculated.
Oh man, some of them can be six figures. Any mint state coin is generally somewhere in the five figures. I know some of these, I don't have the information right in front of me, but a lot of these mint state 60 to 62 grade coins we're selling in the say $12,000 to $30,000 range, depending on the which date it is and how few are graded. These are pretty scarce coins. Even in those circulated grades, like I said, in very fine, extremely fine, and those lower AU grades, they're often several $1,000s. Some of those can be five figures, over 10,000 as well. But a lot of those coins, a lot of like collectors who are putting these coins together are happy with coins that we're able to place in the say like $3,000 to $8,000 range for a nice problem-free solid circulated example, but with no major problems.
With these, you take what you can get, pretty much.
We try and avoid anything damaged, as numismatists, and a lot of them over the years have been damaged, because this is that early era before there's many collectors who know how to properly treat coins and handle coins so they're clean, they're put in jewelry, they're damaged. So we're avoiding those. I see a lot of these coins that have been cleaned, a lot, which is very unfortunate. But we're always looking for those problem-free examples, even if they got used, but we just don't want them abused. Coins that were circulated is fine. We just don't want ones where they've been soldered to jewelry or cleaned or
Right.
mistreated in any way. So let's see. We have another. I think one more example here that we sold recently. I see an 1855 D in also MS62.
Look at that.
There's a nice example. Looks like NGC graded. This one, big mintage here. We're over 20,000. 22,432. Again, normally you hear that mintage and it's like, holy cow, that's like nothing.
Yeah, right.
But, for this series, that's actually a high mintage.
This is probably the highest mintage in the whole series with
Yeah,
22,000.
but the funny thing is, even with a higher mintage like this MS62 coin, population 3 coins. Higher examples, 2.
There we go.
And the finest known is the 64. So even though you have a slightly higher mintage, which sounds silly to say when you're talking about 22,000 coins, this is a very rare coin in mint state, extremely rare coin in mint state. Again, 3 coins in this grade, 2 finer. The finest known is only an MS64. So this coin here is a great coin, that we were able to locate and, put in a collection for one of our clients. We've got some happy clients here with some very rare coins that we've been able to help sniff out for them and find. So
let's hear a little bit about the Charlotte Mint. What happened in Charlotte?
So we talked about Dahlonega, but like we started saying, there was another mint here that in this era, with a very parallel story at Charlotte. Now, the funny thing is the backstory of this actually starts in the late 1700s. So the discovery of gold that kind of started this first gold rush in America.
And this is the first.
This is it. The first gold rush in the United States in the Southeast here was in North Carolina. So in the late 1700s, this kid named Conrad Reed, a child in the 1790s, finds a 17-pound rock in North Carolina, and he did not say, "Eureka, this is gold." He said, "Oh, this is a neat rock," and he brings it home, and apparently uses this rock as a doorstop for years before somehow figuring out that it was gold.
Yeah, I bet you they were like opening the door into it, and after a couple of years, they're like, "Why does the shape of this doorstop keep changing? I thought this was a rock."
Right, it's probably getting. What was a rock, but it was a very dense and malleable metal that this mineral that this rock consisted of, and it ended up being a 272-ounce gold doorstop, which today would be close to $500,000 doorstop, about $475,000 doorstop. So, apparently little Conrad had, he kind of won the lottery there before we had before there was, Super Lotto or Mega Millions.
If this is what having kids gets you, I'm trying to have one as soon as possible.
Yeah, I have 2 kids. They have never yet once come home with a $400,000 doorstop. They come home with sticks and bugs and things, but nothing
You're
that
not making it sound that good.
nothing I've been
anymore.
able to convert into anything of any large monetary value. but anyway, so this finding led to the discovery of what became known as the Reed Gold Mine. For our friend little Conrad Reed here, and the word spread. And the first American gold rush, was on. This was it. It began. And in 1832, a petition was created by the citizens in that area to establish the Charlotte Mint. So eventually, the mint did open. Like I said, there were some other privately struck coins in the South during this period, like we saw in the West, where there was a need for something, and this is the American way, capitalism at its finest. You see a need for something, somebody steps in and tries to do it. But quickly, the government established their own mint, and it first opened July 27th, 1837, only to process and refine gold. Didn't start striking gold coins until a little later, on March 28th, less than a year later, March 28th, 1838. And those coins have a C mint mark. And again, we're talking a lot to maybe collectors who are a little newer and don't know about these coins because they're so rare and so unique. A lot of people, they see this C Mint mark and they might think it's from the Carson City Mint. We do talk a lot about coins from that. Another, part of that whole Western Wild West expansion, and there's such a mythology surrounding that Carson City Mint. But the Carson City Mint has 2 little C's. This is a single C, and that C is for that Charlotte Mint that we're talking about. So Mint opened its doors 1837, starts striking coins 1838, 1844. Fire burns this building to the ground. It seems
What's
like
up with the South?
This was an issue. Well, a lot of it was, think of the technology back then. I mean, you're using fire to heat things, to light things. Hey, I told you earlier, these mints had the most modern technology. You're running it on steam. You have to heat that water somehow. I don't know exactly what caused this fire to happen, but it was not uncommon for there to be fires in buildings back then with the technology of the day, unfortunately.
Especially the mint, like you said.
Right.
Didn't the first Philadelphia mint burn down, too? All these mints were burning down.
Yeah, think about it. They're heating. If you're assaying gold and melting gold, there's a lot of heat involved in that. To melt a metal down to put it into bars and make it into planchets and stuff. There's a lot of heat involved in that.
It's not a stovetop fire, I'll tell you that much.
No, it's not a hot plate. This is hot. A lot of the early mint workers. You got to remember these guys were coming from, experience as blacksmiths. Think about when you go to like a fair or museum as a kid and they have blacksmiths working with metal. It's the same concept. You're melting metal down to work with it. So, like I said, I don't know the exact circumstances, but it doesn't shock me that this was an issue back then. So, it burns down in 1844, burns to the ground. They rebuild it. Eventually, it's taken over. Like I said, very parallel stories. Dahlonega and Charlotte have almost the exact same story. Same time frame, same years. It was taken over by the Confederacy slightly later than Dahlonega was, but still 1861, the first half of the year in May of 1861. And again, like Dahlonega, they kept making coins. The Confederates, they needed money. They struck coins until they ran out of gold, which in this case happened to be October of 1861. There was no more gold, in the mint, on hand. So that's when they stopped minting coins. But again, it just so much history. It's just an incredible story here.
And I know that the 61D dollar, that's like, they know every single example was struck by the Confederacy, so it's this historic piece.
Right.
But they have the 61C half eagle, actually, and they know the U.S. Mint was striking this before the Confederates, right? But they know that in May, the Confederates started striking these coins. So I understand someone did some die research and found out that late die state coins are almost definitely from the Confederacy.
Right. Yeah, so it's interesting. So like you said, 1861, Charlotte is striking half eagles before the Confederacy takes over. And we know from records, they were still striking coins. It generally was believed that there's no way of, you look at a coin, can you tell if it was struck by the, under Union authority, under Confederate authority? It's impossible to say, for certain which is which. But what can be found out is, like you said, is you can look at these die states, and it does tell you a story. So experts do believe there are certain coins that they're pretty certain were struck under the Confederacy. There's others that you can't tell either way, but there's ones that they believe are struck by the Confederacy. And like you said, that's by research of die states. And what that means is you have to remember when we strike coins, we use 2 dies. So there's an obverse and a reverse die, which have a reverse incuse negative image of that design that's going to be on the coin. So they put that blank planchet of metal in between, which is called a planchet, a disc of metal with no design yet. Those 2 dies come together with literally tons of pressure to impart that design into that coin. And when those dies are doing this over and over and over again, striking coins, with literal tons of pressure, they wear down after a while. And as they wear, you see some of the design elements may become less crisp, a little more muted, mushy. And what also happens very regularly is they begin to get some little fine cracks in them, little hairline cracks in these coins. And what some researchers have determined, they are looking at these coins and they can tell when the coin struck, because when you have a crack in a die, again, that's a little valley in the die where there's a crack. When it strikes a coin, the metal pushes up into that crack and you have a little raised area. So those cracks become imparted onto the coin. So when you see coins that were clearly struck by a die that's near the end of its life, because you can kind of follow the chain, you can get a bunch of coins that were struck from the same dies and see these things build and grow. Like you can see where a crack barely is there, and then you see the crack gets bigger, it gets thicker, it gets longer, it starts expanding. So you can tell in the process of when these coins were struck from that die. So they've identified some die states that are clearly at the end of the life of the dies. These dies have been used for a long time at that point, and they have these cracks and these diagnostics to be able to tell that these were among the last coins struck from the dies. And just by using kind of reasoning and deduction, they've been able to say, okay, if these were the last ones struck, and we know half of the coins were struck, whether it's half or approximately half of the coins were struck after the Confederacy took over, it's clear that if this coin was struck at the end of the striking process, it must have been struck under the Confederacy.
So it's probably maybe about 95% chance likely kind of that they're probably Confederate coins.
I'd say the ones that are from the latest die states, I would say close to 100% were struck, but it's hard to tell where in that chain does that crossover happen. If you see a coin that's earlier, it doesn't mean it was definitely struck by the Union. You might have ones that are very early, that clearly those dies were new coins. If not that they exist, but for example, if you had a proof-like coin, the dies were brand new, you'd say that had to be struck under the Union, under the federal government.
Right.
Not that there's a proof-like coin from for this example, but if there were, that would be a way to say, you look at the coin and say this is clearly struck in the beginning of the issue. So there are some too that they look at, they're clearly earlier dies that some experts believe, oh yeah, this is pretty much most likely a Union struck. These are pretty certainly Confederate struck, but most of the series you're not sure, but it's still very popular for that reason. These are coins struck under this kind of vague time period with all this upheaval in our country. It's such a historical time. It's the final year of this mint, for such historic reasons. These coins are hugely popular, but especially besides that 61C half eagle, any of these 1861 Charlotte coins, Dahlonega coins, hugely popular, whether we know certainly who authorized their mintage. So that's what die states are. And I mean, the whole idea of die states doesn't just apply to these mints. That's just minting coins in general. But that's how these experts and historians kind of piece these things together. They're looking at the physical coins, they're looking at records of when coins were struck, and they're using all that data to kind of figure out, in this case, who struck this coin. So it's some fascinating stuff. But I mean, it's a historic mint. Charlotte, after the war, or during the war actually, the mint was used as a military hospital, after they were done striking coins. After the war, it never ended up opening again. It was used as an assay office, so kind of like a mint, but it was used in an assay office actually from 1867 to 1913. So an assay office is where kind of, they're taking in gold and precious metals and they're refining it and making it into bars and testing its purity and stuff, but they're not actually making coins here. They did that from 1867 up till 1913, and then during World War I, it served as a station for the Red Cross. So 1931, the building was about to be demolished, and they were going to.
That'd be a shame.
Yeah, that would have been a real shame. I hate that when I see these old buildings being demolished, because I love, again, being a coin geek, I love all these kind of tangible pieces of our past and our history. It breaks my heart when I see these old historic buildings being demolished. But luckily, in this case, they did not demolish it and replace it with a post office. There was actually a group of private citizens who acquired the building from the Treasury in 1933, which amazes me unto itself because 1933, obviously, we're Roosevelt is redeeming our gold coins. We're in the Depression. Who has money to go, hey, let's form a group and save this building? Most people are going, oh, I hope I actually can eat and pay my bills and my bank doesn't fail. But luckily for us, there was a group of private citizens who, they bought the building from the Treasury. The structure was actually relocated a few miles from downtown Charlotte.
Yeah, no big deal. Just buy a building, dismantle it, build it back. It's
move
easy.
But it just shows, I'm so happy that there are people who value our history and value these things, who are willing to do something like this, because it's no easy task. And like I said, especially in the Depression, to decide we want to save this piece of our history and, we're going to have to move it. And that's a big undertaking. But, luckily for us, these people did it. 1936, the building was dedicated as a Mint Museum of Art, and it actually was the first art museum in the state. Wow, is that it?
I think they probably did a couple of changes over the years, but originally the Mint building was the museum.
Are we sure that's the right museum? Because I thought I saw pictures of this building that still looked like the Mint building, but maybe I'm wrong, because that. Take back everything I said about preserving our historic buildings, and because that does not look quite like the Mint building. Anyway,
it might be an add-on. Let's call it an add-on.
Let's. All right, we'll see.
Jack, what about some Charlotte coins that Rare Collectibles TV has dealt with?
I'm glad you asked, because like Dahlonega, like I said, these two mints, I kind of think of them together. A lot of collectors who collect these coins, unless they live in Charlotte or Dahlonega, most collectors who are putting these collections of these coins together, we kind of group these together often because it's such a great story and they're such rare coins. So of course, besides those Dahlonega coins I showed you, we do have some great Charlotte issue coins that we've sold over the last several months or last year or so. I think most of these are actually this year that I'm looking at. This is an 1838 Charlotte. This is the very first year of the quarter eagle, which is the $2.50 coin. For any of you who are new, we call these a quarter eagle because at this time the largest coin was the $10 gold coin, which we decided to give a name to our biggest, kind of most prestigious coin struck by the Mint. So $10 coin was golden. It was called an eagle or a gold eagle, and that's why you get these coins called half eagle, quarter eagle, because this $2.50 was a quarter of the size and value of that biggest coin. So this here we're looking at, you see that mint mark C on the obverse. This is that classic head design. The mint mark was on the obverse here, later gets moved to the reverse, just like we talked about on that Dahlonega coin earlier. But this 1838 is the first year. Again, these mintages, I was saying earlier, under 20,000, in this case under 10,000.
7,800 for this one.
Yeah, 7,880 coin. It's amazing that any of these things exist from this period. This one is certified by NGC AU55, about uncirculated 55. Again, very respectable grade. Just a little bit of wear on this coin. In this grade, only 38 coins certified. Tiny example. Finer known examples, only 58. And you have to keep in mind too, that's how many have been graded. How many what we call certification instances are higher. Doesn't necessarily even mean there's that many higher. When you have coins that are this rare, you get dealers and collectors who will break a coin out if they think it's a real high-end coin for the grade and try and get it to grade higher. Think about a coin like this. This coin here, 1838 C, Charlotte Mint 2.5. The finest known is MS64, right? So if you get a coin that you look at it's an MS63, and you think, oh, this is a really high-end coin, there are collectors or dealers who will break the coin out, resubmit it, and try and get a higher grade. And they're supposed to send the old labels from the old holder to the grading service so they can adjust it correctly to have proper record keeping. Doesn't always happen. So for some of these really rare coins, sometimes you see inflated populations. So sometimes, if there's 58 showing as being graded higher, that number may really be 40 or 50. You don't know. It's hard to say. What we do know, though, is clearly, even if all 58 of those coins are truly coins that exist, I mean, that's nothing. There's thousands of collectors who would want that coin when you're chasing 58 coins. I mean, that is a rare coin. The finest known of this coin is a Mint State 64. Again, a very, very respectable grade, but we're used to modern gold eagles grading MS 69, even coins from the late 19th century, early 20th century grading gem MS 65 grades, MS 66 grades. Finest known on some of these coins in later periods are 67. This is a 64, just showing the rarity. Not only the absolute rarity, just so few, 7,880 coins struck, but the condition rarity. The highest grade is only an MS64.
It's the whole package.
Yeah, exactly.
And we got this guy's big brother, too. We got a 1839 C and AU55, too, I understand.
Right, so same denomination, but the following year. You see the classic head design evolving here, too. These are both what we'd call classic head, that Liberty head design. Mm-hmm. It's starting to get a little bit closer to what then becomes, the Liberty head design that we know, that lasted until the early 20th century.
Right.
But still, this would still be considered a classic head. Again, the mint mark is still in the obverse here, right above the date. So you can see, this is fascinating to me. You can see that repunched date. I don't know what they were doing, but clearly that 3 was punched once. They didn't like it. They tried to obliterate it. They punched a new 3 over it. I guess it was probably too low originally. They tried to fix it. The 9 looks like the same thing. They kind of punched it in, didn't like how it was oriented. They fixed it. These guys were working with hand tools. Some of them didn't have a lot of experience. And, that's one of the things I love about our early coinage is the kind of, you look at it and it's so, new coins can kind of feel sterile by comparison. This is, you look at it and you can see somebody sat there using their hands to make this stuff. A
human did this,
yeah,
not a robot.
Yeah, exactly. And this coin, another low mintage, 18,140. In this grade, only 77 graded. The finest known of this is an MS63. Again,
is this known as the drooling eagle? You see that?
It should, but this is perfect. This is perfect to look at, though, because we were having that conversation about die states.
Right.
This is perfect. So that's a crack where that die, after being used, over and over, hundreds or thousands of times, where it's beginning to deteriorate, and that is a die crack. That is where the die was breaking down, and it literally had a crack that runs. You can see it go from actually inside the eagle's mouth, through the bottom of his beak, all the way to the top of that shield. And if you look closely, it continues. This die was almost broken in half at this time. Continues through his tail feathers, down through his feathers, and it picks up at the very, from the shield actually, through the tail feathers, all the way to by that olive branch in his tail, all the way down through the 2 in the denomination, and then to the rim. So this die was actually used for so long that there was a crack. I bet you could find coins where you have the crack just starting at the rim into that 2, where you can see its widest. And as you find later and later die states, it got to the point where, it may go further than this. I haven't studied this, the die states of 1839 C 2.5 gold eagles in depth, but you can see where it gets bigger. And at this point, it's literally, the die's almost cracking in half at this point.
This thing was being down through the 2.
Yeah, they mostly bubblegum and duct tape, I understand, but yeah, pretty much that's what happened. So, they're just fascinating coins. I love these coins. I love the history. I love the rarity. It's an area of U.S. numismatics that not a lot of people know about it because they're so rare. Like, you have to kind of get a little more advanced in collecting before you even hear of these coins and try to pursue them. But it's an area I love so much because it really has everything. It has such a rich history. They're gold. They only made gold, so everybody loves gold. There's that rare, both on an absolute level, meaning so few exist, period, so few were made, period, and then taking it to that absolute rarity level of, once you get to mint state, there's almost none of these things. So it's just such a fun area to collect. You have to kind of get serious about collecting. I don't know if we have any of these available on the website right now because they're so rare, but these are absolutely absolutely perfect coins for you to talk to our private advisory coin team. Whenever we find one or two of these coins, we're always looking for them. I'm always seeking these things out. Whenever I find one, I buy it, and they sell before I can even get in the building. Like as soon as I tell somebody that we have this, I need it. Like these coins sell as fast as we get them. But if you work with our private advisory coin team, they know you're looking for these things. We can think of you. We can let you know, hey, we found one of these coins. Is this something for your collection? So I can't say enough good things about this series. But anyway, we've been talking about this for about an hour. I got to eat these cookies. I've been talking so much I haven't even had a chance to eat my cookies. And you know how much I love cookies. You can tell how much I love my cookies. But, I almost forgot though. Before we wrap up here, I almost forgot about our news of the day because I got so excited about that 1861 gold dollar at the beginning from Dahlonega because it's such a just mind-blowing example of everything great in U.S. numismatics. But I almost forgot that there was some big news that I wanted to talk about besides these Southern mints. Now, this is hard to believe. I thought there was some confusion or something when I heard this, but apparently another 1907 ultra high relief St. Gaudens double eagle just sold. And this isn't the same example from the Paramount collection that we just talked about a few weeks ago. This is a different example. Now, if you remember, there was a coin from the Paramount collection that sold in auction. That was graded NGC Proof 68. This is a PCGS Proof 68. This coin was once part of the legendary Sam Bloomfield collection. Now, there's only about 20 examples of these ultra high relief coins. The double eagle is the most collected, popular, beautiful coin there is. We talk about high relief examples struck in 1907, which was a very, very small mintage. I forget, low five figures. I forget 12,000 or something. But these ultra high relief, these were really just works of art. Sculpture in gold by Augustus St. Gaudens. He really wanted our coins to be a work of art, but of course, because they need to be used for money, they had to make some concessions. But the very first one struck when St. Gaudens and Theodore Roosevelt were trying to come up with this beautiful work of art as coinage, were struck in what we call ultra high relief, where that relief is so high. Like I said, only about 20 of these coins were struck, and it is so rare to see one of these coins offered for sale in the market. Normally, you're lucky if you see one coin come available in the market where a collector decides to sell his coin, maybe every 5 years or so. So when I heard two examples, a second example in Proof 68 sold, in a matter of, a couple months or whatever, maybe even weeks, within a short period, I immediately thought, no, somebody's confused. That's not right. But no, I was corrected. This is a PCGS example. I was surprised to see this. It's been a tremendous year for collectibles. I'm really excited to find out that this coin was able to be placed in a new collection. So exciting. This example actually sold by private treaty. One collector's, representative found there was a person looking for one. Somebody knew who had one. They were able to get together, make a deal. Apparently it sold for $4.1 million, which ranks among the highest prices ever paid for a coin. For a coin like this, though, which is a work of art created by Augustus St. Gaudens, one of the most famous artists, not just in numismatics but in U.S. history. For me, it sounds like a bargain when I hear about what sports cards are selling for. What these other things. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, digital artwork selling for $60 million plus. And then I see this. One of the first St. Gaudens double eagle struck, one of the only ones struck in this ultra high relief format, truly a work of art in gold, from this classic time in history. Just sounds like a bargain to me. I mean, at $4.1 million. But anyway, it is an exciting time to be a collector of really anything, but especially coins. They feel like such a great value to me when I look at these other collectibles, the crazy money that some of them are bringing. So I'm excited for what I do here and what I get to share with you. I'm so happy that we are able to do this together and I can share my love for this stuff and help you build collections. And thank you all so much for joining me here today on Coin Snacks with Jack. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel. We're streaming every week on Facebook, on YouTube, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. So tune in for your weekly dose of numismatics.
Hit them up with the lunch special again.
The lunch special, yes, I almost forgot. Thank you, Sofer. 7% off all $2.50 and $5 gold coins. Go to our website, talk to your private advisor. This is a short special. It's only until, what do we say, 3 o'clock Pacific?
3 Pacific, 6 Eastern.
Yeah, so this is a great deal. Get in on it. Again, we're doing our kind of smaller size gold coins because that's what we're talking about today, these $5 and $2.50 coins that were struck at Dahlonega. But this is not just for Dahlonega and Charlotte coins. I don't know if we have any right now. They're so rare. Any $2.50, $5 coins that we have in stock, 7% off, but it doesn't last long. You don't need a code. Go and add some of these coins to your collection. And we will see you right here next week. Same time, same place. Another exciting episode featuring the designer behind the new Uverse, the Type 2 American Silver Eagle, Emily Damstra. Don't miss it.
And that's rarecollectiblestv.com for that lunch special.
Thank you.
Rarecollectiblestv.com.
Yes, rarecollectiblestv.com.
Thanks for watching Coin Snacks with Jack. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Coin Snacks. Visit us at rarecollectiblestv.com.